No price talk and no Lambos. This is not another crypto podcast. Welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Jillian, and each week we will be looking at the problems solved by blockchain. I'll be going deep with the people building the apps and communities which are changing the world around us.
Hello and welcome to the show with me, Jillian. Now today I have a quite well-known young man by the name of Yavin, who is the CEO and founder of Cointelligence. And you may know him by different terms, but recently he's come quite high profile over a number of conferences that are happening where On has been calling out scammers. Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
We've met a couple of times now, and what I'd like to just explain, what is the matter? So we met recently at a conference in London that had a particular high profile and some issues, but what is the matter with the conferences in this sector in general, in your opinion?
So it's a great question. Before I answer that, I'll just say that I think that scammers is one of the main reasons for the progress of this industry being slowed down. Many people lost trust in the industry. Many people left the blockchain or cryptocurrency communities because it's just too much for them. And it's not enough that we have the problem with the scammers. We also have a problem with the scam enablers, as I call them. And the scam enablers is basically everyone from event organizers to website publishers, to influencers, to people and sources that allow the scammers to operate and promote their scammy agendas. And specifically, the event that you mentioned enabled scammers that I and my team called out in the past. And on top of that, scammers that already were either indicted or under investigation by different government authorities. And the biggest problem that I had with that event is the fact that I sent a lot of information to the event organizer, and I showed them, you are giving your stage to people that are considered to be criminals. How can you do that? And he just ignored it.
So there is an argument that says that, and this is an evolving industry too as well, so the parameters are kind of strange. In terms of calling someone a scammer or not, it's how do you rate that, how do you not rate that? We'll come to that a bit later on. But there's an argument that says it's better to have open dialogue and hold people to account than to just ignore them altogether. What would you say to that?
So I think it's correct, it's right, under specific circumstances. It doesn't always work this way, and I'll explain. I was asked a few days ago to have a video debate with a CEO of an exchange that, in our opinion, is the most scammy, one of the scammiest exchanges out there. And the reason that I'm saying to our opinion is because we got dozens of cases, of evidence of cases, that this exchange scammed founders, their clients, ex-employees. These guys are operating against so many laws in the Western countries, and so on and so on. In that debate, I asked them very difficult questions, and the whole debate was around that. Obviously, he did everything he could in order to avoid answering the questions. He did everything he could in order to twist things and turn things around and try to show that me and my team did the wrong things and so on. He's a very, very intelligent scammer. But the point is that in that conversation, I did ask him the difficult questions. What you just suggested doesn't really happen, because usually, most of the times, even if the event organizer will have good intentions, they will not get the chance to ask the difficult questions because they just don't have time, because every speaker at an event has a limited time to speak. And by the time that the speaker's finishing doing the speeches, maybe they get asked 1-2 questions from the audience, and that's it. And most of the people in the audience are not even aware of their scammy ways, so they don't even ask them the difficult questions. So if there was a procedure that would actually get these people on the stages and they will really be asked the right questions by the right people, then I might agree with it, but only under these circumstances.
I think what I've noticed is that, like, I've been in the fintech industry for years and years and years, and too many years. When I come along to the blockchain conferences, the thing that I find interesting is that there's different terminology, which is different. For example, back in the day when I first started going to conferences, a keynote was someone who spoke at the start of the day and they were a leader in the industry. But now there's all these keynotes throughout the day.
Now every speaker is a keynote.
Yeah,
I actually thought about it a couple of days ago. It's really funny.
Yeah, it's like, that's funny. And then the other ones too, they have fireside chats, which is a new thing as well. And again, that's very gentle. There's no, although I did love his name will come to me now again, a very funny English journalist, and Monty Montford, who did a fireside chat, and he was hilarious. But he is just funny. But these fireside chats, I think the new lingo, it's different. And even also the panels, I find panels, although there were some exciting ones in London last week, must be not, but panels, oftentimes what happens is that the same question is asked of each person. I'm like, if you were on a news report on television, if you were on a prime time current affairs program, they wouldn't just ask the same question. That's really boring. So I think the system, there's a couple of things going on. I think there's the whole thing, everybody's a keynote. That's a bit weird. Then people are giving the floor, and as you were saying, they're not necessarily being interviewed. It's not like they have the floor without being called up on some of their claims, whatever, perhaps. And then the audience maybe doesn't really understand. So there's a couple of things going on. I think on the flip side, though, is who's to say, and I'll come there on as well, who's to say, how do we say who's a scammer and who's not a scammer? I mean, sometimes there's an all out and out scammer, and there's somebody who's failed. And then there's maybe somebody who just uses sharp practice in the middle. It's a hard thing to, unless you're actually stealing things and you know, I mean, I presume, and perhaps I should ask you now, when you in your company, when you do your scam hunting, you do talk about a rating system, don't you? That goes through the different projects. Am I right?
So let me explain. It's a good question, but before that, you touched a few topics.
Yeah,
so
sorry, there's a lot of questions there.
So first of all, I think that the problem starts with the fact that the event organizers do not know who is a professional speaker and who's not. They do not, most of them, they don't even understand the level of expertise of the speakers. That's the first problem. I remember when I started speaking about 2 years ago, I didn't allow myself to speak about hardcore blockchain or cryptocurrency topics. I have a marketing and advertising background. I've been doing it for many, many years. In the last 10 years, I've been doing digital marketing and mainly digital marketing. And when I started speaking at events, the only topic that I was speaking about was marketing for blockchain or cryptocurrency. And I also based it on actual work that I already did with the clients. And I allowed myself to talk about it because I had practical experience. Now, it happened very fast. It happened within a couple of months. And I didn't do anything besides blockchain and crypto. I studied it all day long. Meanwhile, I started helping clients. The first one I did for free. The second one I started charging. But when I came to a stage, I already had what to talk about. I already had practical experience. And I saw other speakers, and I couldn't even listen to them for more than 2 minutes because it was obvious to me back then when I wasn't someone that really understood it. It was clear to me that they're bullshitting. And I'm not talking about scammers right now. I'm just talking about people that get on the stage, make it look like they're experts. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. And it was very, very obvious to me. But to the audience, it wasn't obvious because everyone are beginners. By the way, that's the way that I look at it until now. We're all still beginners. I am laughing every time I'm being called a crypto or a blockchain expert. There's no experts. It hasn't been around enough time yet to call ourselves experts. Actually, in my bio, I write something like considered to be an expert with quotes. just to emphasize that fact. Now, that's the first answer that I wanted to say about what you said. The second one, and that's really, really bad, in my opinion, they just don't care. They only care about making money. I'm talking about the event organizers. So they will give the stage to anyone out there that is willing to pay for it. And it actually made me think a week ago, I started thinking, how come publishers must have a disclaimer whenever content is paid? Why don't event organizers are obligated to disclose who paid to speak?
That's a good point, because there's nothing wrong with an organizer making money. That's why they run the conference.
Absolutely.
But actually, that's quite a nice takeaway, isn't it? Because I paid for this slot, or I'm a sponsor. Once you know you're a sponsor, you know that you're paying for it. Okay, that's a nice thought. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I think that we should actually start getting events to be obligated to do it exactly as publishers. Now, that's the second part of my answer. The third part of my answer is that I think that event organizers, and I said before at the beginning, the first part was they don't understand the level of expertise. And I'm not saying the same thing now. I'm talking about something completely different. The third part of my answer is that they don't have any due diligence process. They do not check the companies. And I don't expect them to be experts like my research team, because my research team are really the biggest experts in the world, in my opinion. And they all have practical experience for over years before they joined my team, by the way, not only from their work at Cointelligence. And I don't expect event organizers to have the same level, but either they have some kind of a due diligence process to at least eliminate the obvious scammers. And I'll answer the question that you asked me, who is to say who's a scammer? And if they are not able to do it, they should hire a company that will do it for them. So these are the three parts of my answer. Now, to finish and wrap up the answer to your question, what I just mentioned now, who is to say who's a scammer? So first of all, our rating system is the reason that we started scam hunting, because when we did the rating, we found the scammers, because the rating process helped us find them and understand that they are scammers. And let me give you a couple of examples so it will be clear. When we found companies that completely copy-pasted the entire website of their competitor, and some of them put fake pictures on the team page.
Yes, yeah. There was a lot of very obvious ones, weren't there?
Yeah. Very obvious ones.
And they still raise money.
They still raise money, absolutely. And I'll tell you why. Part of the reason of just what you said now was because the scammers were endorsed by all kinds of ICO experts, and people actually followed these experts. And we called out some of these experts because they actually made people lose millions, if not more, worth of dollars or pounds or whatever. And beside these experts, some of the scammers were actually endorsed by very, very high level, well-known companies or celebrities. On my scam presentation, I actually show examples of companies and celebrities that everyone know. I'm not going to say the names now because I don't want you to need to.
Some of them are under legal process in the UK anyway, aren't they? There's a number of them being prosecuted.
Yes, but I'm saying that there's a couple of examples. I'm just on this talk. I'm not going to name names, but usually I do, but this time I'm not. And beside that part, regarding what you asked me about the rating system, so it doesn't have anything to do with the scam hunting. The rating system that we developed is a system to give a score to projects, to ICOs, STOs, exchanges. By the way, we never published ratings for STOs because we never got licensed. We just did it internally. But with regards to ICOs and exchanges, we didn't have a problem. And the exchanges rating system is still ongoing. We still update the rating for the exchanges on a regular basis. But it doesn't have anything to do with the scam hunting. Whenever we do rating for a project, it helps us understand if it's a scam or not. And if we think it's a scam, we dive much, much deeper into it. But it's not a part of the rating process.
back, I sort of thought about your previous comment about celebrities endorsing products. I mean, celebrities endorse products all the time, makeup and, food and diet and all the rest of it. It doesn't necessarily go from one to the other. I mean, a celebrity might like a product and decide to endorse it. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're scamming or that the product's scammy.
I agree completely. And I'll say that I think that many celebrities are endorsing products that they don't believe in. They are endorsing different services or products and so on. But it doesn't get me so upset the same way it is with the crypto projects. Because with the crypto projects, we had the FOMO, the fear of missing out. And whenever people saw that a celebrity or a well-known figure from the industry, one of them was speaking at the event that you mentioned before, and he made people lose at least tens of millions of dollars that I am sure of, maybe even much, much more. And the problem is that people actually lose their life savings in some cases. And there is one scam that I will name because it's a very, very well-known company, and the founder and the CEO already disappeared, and the FBI is after them, and the Interpol is after them, and it's a very well-known. It's called OneCoin, and people lost more than 4 billion euros already. And every day, people still invest in that scam. It doesn't matter that you Google the name and you will see warning signs. People get so obsessed with the fact that they can become billionaires tomorrow, and the people at the top of the pyramid are brainwashing people in such a way that they actually believe it. And even though someone proves to them that it's a clear scam, that people they show them that the founder and CEO disappeared 2 years ago, being searched by so many authorities, they will still defend it. I actually got an email from one of the victims. I call them victim scammers. He actually started being aggressive towards us and calling Cointelligence scammers because he believes in OneCoin so much, and we called out OneCoin recently.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting? You'd have no argument with me on the OneCoin, but what is interesting, and it's a pure Ponzi scheme. There's no product, there's no code. It's just, people selling down. It's a pyramid, an absolute Ponzi scheme. But what is interesting too as well, I do believe people have personal responsibility, because I don't know if I've spoken to you before about this, but when I say to people I work in this area, they say, "Oh, should I invest in Bitcoin?" I'm going, do you normally invest in stocks and shares? Do you normally, if you do, what's the golden rule? You only invest that which you can afford to lose. So I do think there's also, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think there's also personal responsibility. People should not be putting their life savings on crypto, no more than they should put it on a horse.
I completely agree with you on that, but there's a slight problem here. And I just figured out that I didn't answer one of your questions before, and it's a really important question. Who gets to decide who's a scammer? So I agree with you that it's not always 100% certain. But I'll give you the example of the event that we had last week. There were scammers that it's clear beyond any doubt. There's evidence that is showing that these people misled other people, made them lose a lot of money. It's completely obvious. There's no other way to look at it.
Except that I'm playing devil's advocate here, but people have authority over their own money. So whether I choose to invest in a scam or invest in a horse or invest in a house, there's an element of responsibility for the people with their own money and how they choose to spend it. I mean, if a celebrity, if Jennifer Aniston's, endorses a diet pill and I buy it and I don't get slim,
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but it's not the same thing, because first, obviously you can sell products that don't work, and we can get into that discussion, and we can get into philosophical discussions and so on. But in these cases, and it's like you mentioned yourself about OneCoin, they didn't develop anything. They don't have anything. It's all thin air. That's a clear scam. You cannot argue that it's not a scam because there's nothing there. They are promising the moon to people. They are saying that they're definitely going to have a positive ROI, crazy ROI every day, every week, every month. it's an obvious scam. There's no question asked here. Now, to your example, I would say the following. First of all, it's different because, again, it's a new technology. And I've been there when the internet revolution happened, when the mobile revolution happened. Whenever there's a new revolution, bad actors are abusing it. It's not something new. And I think that because it's a new technology, because there's so much FOMO that gets people to join into it and invest in it, and I will answer what you said about the responsibility of the people, then I think it's a unique case. And I'll just give you one example. For example, if you go and advertise a scam on television or in a newspaper, and the media will not do the minimum that they are supposed to do, they will get indicted by the authority. And it's not the same as a huge influencer from the crypto space going on Twitter and tweeting something. And usually when you go on social media, you don't have the same checkups that you have when you do a commercial on television, because it's not regulated yet enough. And there's a problem with everything being global. And if someone is tweeting something from a developing country that don't have an authority that will enforce it, like we have in the UK, for example, it's a problem. It's problems that started to exist when the social media thing got popular, and so on and so on. And I'll just say one last thing about this specific topic, that yes, you're right, people should have personal responsibilities. And I'm all about that. But I always see that, I mean, let me just put it this way. Everybody in crypto space talks about self-regulation. And everyone talked about the fact that, cryptocurrency is bringing something new. We don't need the government to tell us what to do and what not to do. We don't need regulations and so on. We've seen that it doesn't work, period. There's no self-regulation yet. Maybe there will be in the future, but it just doesn't work. Whenever you let people do whatever they want to do, it's the wild, wild west. And greed gets them to do whatever they need to do in order to make more profit. And it just doesn't work. Now, you tell me, okay, but still, you're not telling me, what about the people with their responsibility? It's a problem. And I am telling you this as an advertiser, as a marketeer. It's a problem because you can fool people and they will not be able to know that you're fooling them. And the story will sound too good and they will just never get it, no matter what.
I'm going to agree with you on that bit there, because also coming from a marketing background as well, tech marketing, whatever. It's interesting that Jack Dorsey this week from Twitter said he's not going to do any more political campaigns. I'm sure you've seen the documentary on Netflix, the Cambridge Analytica scary stuff. And then I quoted a story. There's another layer. There's a whole bunch of layers of social media. You're right. It's not like we have, printed paper or, TV station, whatever. You can go after them for misleading or inaccurate information. Social media is so hard to manage. And I'm just saying to you the other day, it's slightly off message, but it is interesting how powerful it can be. About that story that was featured in John Ronson's So You've Been Publicly Shamed. It's kind of the flip side to what we're saying, but it has the same weight to it. That young girl who went on holiday to South Africa, an English advertising executive, a PR executive, to her 200 followers on Twitter said, I'm going to South African holidays. I hope I don't get AIDS. Oh, I won't. I'm white. And somebody saw that and that blew up. And by the time she stepped off in Joburg 14 hours later, millions of tweets have gone all around the world. And the hashtag has Justine landed yet was trending. And her life was blown apart by people who were self-righteous. And it was right. That was a lamentable, horrendous tweet that she wrote. And I guess what I'm saying is there's two things I'm saying in this particular piece. One is we've got to be careful as well, because this social media thing, for good and for bad, for FOMO and for, packs of baying, self-righteous individuals looking for blood of this poor woman who, wrote 250 characters, horrible words, but did not deserve what happened to her afterwards. I think what I'm picking up from you is that because we live in this funny social media bubble, things can be said and people can follow that they wouldn't ordinarily follow. People wouldn't necessarily give all their money. If I wrote in a local paper, I have this great scheme, they mightn't follow me. but because it can explode quickly for good or for bad, it has more power.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm arguing both sides. Now. I'm kind of confusing my body into a bit.
No, definitely. And I want to add something very important. On top of that, I see, and I'm not relating to that personally because I was never like that, but I see it all the time. I see people doing things because they're afraid, because they are not only the FOMO, the fear of missing out, not only being afraid of that, but to be afraid not to be a part of something that your friends and family are doing as well. Whenever I speak on stages, I always tell everyone, do your own due diligence. Don't trust even me. Don't even trust Cointelligence. I mean, you can use it as a great source, and obviously I recommend it, but don't trust us. Do your own due diligence. And I'm always telling them, don't trust your family and friends, not because your family and friends don't care about you and they want to screw you up. It's because they can be misled, especially when it's a celebrity or a 500 Fortune company endorsing a scam without even knowing that they're doing it. And on top of that, it's what you said. And I think that the social media, and it's not only the social media, it's the internet in general, the accessibility is so huge and the speed of things that are happening is so fast that a scammer can operate within a few hours or a few days and make so much money and then just take everything down offline and do it all over again with a new name, a new entity, a new website, a new social media account, and so on and so on. It's so easy to do it. If you know how to do it, then that's a problem. And that's why I don't agree with personal responsibility with regards to the people saying, you don't need to do it. Let people do their own.
Well, I think the counter to that is education would be the counter to develop people personal responsibility. But you know, it's interesting. I had a thought there. You were saying about who were the major scammers who are making millions. I can remember talking to somebody who was working in a cybersecurity company. And I said, all these stupid spam mails I get in about, Nigerian princes and all the rest of it. And I said, they're stupid. Why does someone bother to do that? It's a waste of time and money. And as he pointed out, he said, there could be a young person in India who's doing this, who just needs one little bite. And it might be like $25, but that could be the equivalent of them working for X number of weeks in their job. So that's
exactly.
Like the one end. And because, I'm thinking, God love him, if that's what he's going to, or her, what she's going to survive on. But the internet makes these things possible. So I think maybe it's not that people shouldn't have their personal responsibility, because we still all bet on the horse and still all bet on the dogs, but education. And so you're coming at it from, you want to reveal information. And I'm coming from it more, let's get people to think that, if it looks too good to be true, it just might be too good to be true. So I'm going to finish up this our conversation, going back to, we started off at that conference. And conferences now are a bit funny. They are definitely funny. They're very interesting. I'm really enjoying them. But they're very different to the fintech conferences that I went to 20 years ago. They're very, very different. Think of 3 ways you could make a conference better. Because you think in trinities.
So to have a due diligence process and to make sure that you don't let scammers speak on stage.
Yeah.
I mentioned that before. The second thing that I mentioned before is that disclose who is paying for speaking.
Yeah.
And I'd say that the third part is a very, very wide topic. And it also connects to what you just said, education. I think that the events need to be much more educational and much less promotional. And I completely agree with you that the education part is a huge part. And that's the reason that we started Cointelligence Academy, because I said to myself, okay, it's great that we keep calling out the scammers, but let's just teach people and let them be the not the scam hunters, but to let them avoid it because they will understand much more.
Do you know what's interesting? There's also a flip side. I'm doing flip sides the whole time. Out in the real world, the non-crypto world, people they believe it's all a scam. They think it's 100% scam, right? Because they say it's Ponzi and blah, blah, blah. So interesting. I find that my role, because I also want, like you, to have mass adoption, want this to succeed, and all the rest of it. My role in the real world is to persuade people that there are genuine things happening. So I'm doing the exact opposite. Isn't that funny? People say, oh, a lot of people come in and say, oh, it's a scam. And I'm going, no. It's a phenomenal technology. It would democratize our access to opportunity in finance, education, all the rest. Isn't that interesting? Two different sides.
It would be interesting, but but it's not right, because whenever I talk about the scammers, I always say at the beginning of my talk that I'm going to show a lot of the nasty stuff of the industry. But before I show it, I always mentioned and emphasize that I think it's the biggest revolution that mankind ever had, if not the biggest, then one of the biggest. And like I mentioned before, I was there when the internet revolution happened. I was there before the internet revolution. We were using, it was called BBS, bulletin board systems. Everything was with analog lines. People think I'm much more I'm much younger than what I am. But because I started very young, when I was even not a teenager, even before I was a teenager, I think I started when I was 11 or 12, something like that. And I always say to everyone, it's amazing. It's the first time in human history that people can really have complete economic freedom. I am always calling out against the banks, not because I have a personal problem with them. I don't. I never even needed to take a loan from the bank, from a bank, not for myself personally and not for a business. So I don't feel the pain that other people feel every day, but I feel their pain. And I think that with crypto, it's really the first time that we can have a complete economic freedom. And with regards to blockchain, I think that it can change completely industries like legal, real estate, and so on. So don't get me wrong. I always call out the scammers and talk in a negative way, but I am a crypto evangelist, as they say, but I prefer to call myself a crypto fanatic because I really think that it's the future.
That's the note we're going to leave on. Thank you so much, Yavin, with the CEO and founder of Cointelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me.